Hi, my name is Leah Day, and this is a video for Quiltmaker magazine. This quilt behind me is called Spring Rain, and it is featured in the March-April 2015 issue of Quiltmaker magazine. In the quilt pattern, you're going to learn more than just the piecing, and it's very simple piecing at that. These big rectangles, long strips of blue fabric. You're going to learn more than just the piecing though. You're also going to learn how to free motion quilt this quilt on your home sewing machine. It all starts with a really simple teardrop spiral motif, which is included in the magazine. You're going to take that and use it to mark these beautiful teardrop shapes over your quilt, and then quilt them on the marked line. So let's hop on the machine. I'll give you some tips on how to get started. So I'm sliding my quilt into position, and it's about where I want to get started. I want to get started in the centermost teardrop, and notice that I have not rolled the quilt up. If I roll it, it really gets too bulky and difficult to shift. So I've just kind of scrunched it up here, tucked it into the arm of the machine and behind, and that's really where it's going to stay the best out of my way. And now I'm ready to start free motion quilting. To get started quilting, I always pull my bobbin thread up to the surface of the machine. I do that by rotating the needle down and all the way back up again, and then I can tug on that bobbin thread and bring it right up to the surface. There we go. I tuck both threads underneath my foot, and then I start stitching. Now start slow and then gradually speed up as I swing around that teardrop. I'm spiraling outward, so I am going to probably need to shift these threads around so they're out of my way. Now with free motion quilting, your stitch length is created by balancing the speed of your hands with the movement of your hands with the speed of your machine. So what I'm doing is running the machine at a nice medium pace and moving my hands slowly to produce a nice small stitch. Smaller stitches are actually more preferable than bigger stitches because they hold the layers of the quilt more securely together. Now notice that about every 4 inches, I'm going to stop and reposition my hands and reposition the quilt, because after about 4 inches, like about right here, I'm getting close to my fingers and it just doesn't feel quite right. So now I'm going to shift it around so I can see better, and so I can get in a good position to stay right on that line. Now, speaking of the line, what if you stitch off the line? You've bothered to mark these pretty teardrop spirals all over the quilt, but what if you stitch off of it? Well, you've marked them with a marking pencil that hopefully will come out. You've tested and will come out of the quilt, so don't worry about it. If you stitch off the line, the marks will be erased and no one will know that you made a mistake. It's not a big deal. Now you might be wondering what these weird looking pens and colorful thingies are on my quilt. These are actually pen moors, which cap the ends of these clover flower head pens, and I really like to use that for basting because they're so easy to take out. They're much easier on my hands, and I don't get them caught around my foot while I'm free motioning a quilt like this. Notice how much I've shifted this quilt. I've turned it all the way around. That's perfectly normal. It's important to shift your quilt around so that way you can see exactly what you're doing at all times. So that is the inside of the spiral knocked out. I'm shifting everything around, and I'm going to back up the camera so you can see all of this. Everything's moving. I'm shifting it all around so that way I can really see, and now I'm going to stitch the outside of the teardrop shape. Notice this bulk up here. That doesn't bug me so long as I can flatten out this part right here where my hands are. That little triangle created by my hands, that's the place that I need to worry about. I don't need to worry about all this extra bulk all out here. So that's how we knock out one of our teardrop motifs. Just wash and repeat that exact same process to quilt all of them over the whole surface of the quilt. Now, one other thing you might be wondering about, what do we do with these thread tails? So I'll give you tips on how to hide those next. So every time we start and stop stitching, we're always going to end up with loose threads. Now, a lot of quilters like to just build up thread and clip off these tails. I don't like to do it that way. I just don't think it's very secure. So instead, I give that top thread a tug, and that brings up this little loop. Can take a needle and pick up that loop, and that way both threads will be brought to the surface of the quilt. Now I tie the two in a knot. It's just a simple overhand knot. Make a loop and bring the tails through that loop. Now here's another tip. You don't want to bring this knot all the way down to the surface of the quilt. You want to bring it about 1/8 of an inch. And that's because if you bring it all the way down, it really likes to set on the surface. If you bring it right here, you can pop it into the middle layer of the quilt, and no one will know that there's a knot in there holding those threads securely together. So now I'm taking my needle and I've inserted it exactly where those two threads came out of the quilt. And I'm running the needle about 1 inch through the batting layer, just underneath the top surface of the fabric. Now this is a special needle. It's a cheater needle, which means there's a groove instead of an eye. So you can take both thread tails and just pop them right into the eye, and this will hold it very loosely. You want to make sure you have a little loop right here of thread so that as you pull the needle through, it'll go right through and give that thread a tug, and that knot will pop right in. So that's how you should hide and tie off all of your loose threads on this quilt. So that's it for this video. My name is Leah Day, and I can't wait to see your versions of this beautiful spring rain quilt. Find the instructions you need to piece and free motion quilt this throw size quilt in the 2015 March-April issue of Quiltmaker magazine. Until next time, let's go quilt!